United is learning Amorim's train patterns. As the width provider played the ball inside, the half space attacker drops to support. But realizing that the center midfielder has enough space for himself and doesn't need any support, the attacker decides to move back to his position. Suddenly, he recognized there is a free man who can act as a connector in the third man pattern. You can also see the ball carrier anticipating the possibility of such a pattern, as he isn't even looking at his partner, rather waits for the attacker to start his run, and then the pass is played to execute the trained pattern. The three players had the same intention, and this is when good team attacks occur. The attack progressed with another layup to the forward, and see the benefit of the double striker system. Though it was the first preseason match, there are some early signs of Amorim's future ideas. The setup is the same 3-2 structure we saw last season. The target man gives the depth, and there are two half space attackers. The idea is to use the 3-2 base to attract press, so that space between the lines can be exploited. The structure forces the opposition to commit 5 players to press high if they want to go for man marking. The deeper positioning of the pivot will naturally drag the opposition midfield high, creating space between the lines. Now the progression depends on certain triggers. Here the right centre back has the ball with direct access to the half space. This triggers the half space attacker to drop and support. But that pass was ignored and centre back moves central. Now one of the pivots drops to be the diagonal option, while the other pivot moves high to drag his marker away. This opens a combination possibility, but again it was ignored, and the pivot moves away to clear the area for the ball carrier. If you look closely, they are executing a counter movement in the midfield. As Ahmad was not played earlier, he moved inside in the same direction as the ball carrier. At the same time, the pivot who was already in that lane moved in the opposite direction. In addition, the other pivot stayed away to drag his marker. These movements look like train patterns intended to manipulate the pressing block, and ultimately there is an open pass to bypass the press. Here Ahmad was fouled, but it could have been a potential attack with the options he had. In another similar situation, with the 3-2 base, the right centre back has that half space passing lane available. But here, it was marked, so the ideal decision is to use the second option, which is the diagonal one. One pivot drops, while the other one moves high. It's the same movement pattern seen earlier. So the intention is just to drag one player out of the central areas. With the additional help of a concentration lapse, the movement of one pivot opened the passing lane for his partner pivot, and it triggered the combination. The movements to open passing lanes can be seen as a trained one, but this backheel combination is more of a creative idea from Casemiro. See how this creativity is utilized to its maximum with the defined structure. As the striker drops, the half space midfielder can attack the exposed backlane. The patterns are evident, and it's up to the execution of players. From a tactical point of view, having 3 technical players who are comfortable between the lines can create good attacks. The striker pins the centre backs, and the temporary midfield 3 can create the usual 3 versus 2 overload against double midfielder systems. The idea of pushing a centre midfielder to create that temporary midfield 3 is the key here. It may not work if the default system had that midfield 3, as it will be marked. But when a player like Fernandes moves high in certain occasions, it will create that temporary overload. Here, he initially moved when the ball was on the left to offer that diagonal passing lane. As he was marked then, the ball was played back to the center. He didn't drop, but instead maintained his position. Now the right half space midfielder drops, and it dragged the opposition midfielder out, and the other one was already engaged with the left half space midfielder. This made Fernandes free, and the press was bypassed. This obviously triggers late press from the opposition, and a good team can exploit those panic defending. See how Bruno's high position is creating that pressing dilemma. It's a 3 versus 2 in the midfield, and Cunha is actually free. The centre back had that tiny fraction of time to play that diagonal pass, as the opposition winger is actually focused on marking the wide centre back. Again, this isn't just coincidence, rather the back 3 structure naturally stretches the pressing line to create those gaps. Moreover, the advanced positioning of the center midfielder makes the half space midfielder free, and a player like Cunha is perfect to receive and carry the attack forward in these situations. But the center back couldn't play the pass and an opportunity was wasted. It eventually ended up as a predictable attempt to the half space. So I think Amorim is giving clear positional advantages to his players in certain areas of the pitch. And as always, players have to be good enough to execute those ideas in a real match day.